welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are so excited to be introducing our stamp set Magic Spring Messages and its coordinating dies. This is the third in a series of Magic Messages. So we have the original Magic Messages, Magic Holiday Messages, and now Magic Spring Messages. These are awesome because they're great on their own, but they're also designed to fit perfectly in our Magic Iris die, which is so cool. So let's go ahead and check it out. There are 6 different messages in this set, and first up we have Hello Spring, then we have Best Wishes, Happy Graduation, we have Happy Easter, Happy Father's Day, and Happy Mother's Day. There are also some cute little icons in this set. There's these adorable little sparkles, and then we have 4 different styles of Easter eggs, and all these icons are great to be used on their own or to be layered in front of and behind the magic messages. And then there are 3 different styles of flowers, and I love these little flowers so much. I especially like to use this flower here to put it in the little paws of a critter. It looks absolutely adorable. So now we're going to use our Copic marker to add some color to these images. And I had so much fun coloring these images in kind of like a little bit of a rainbow pastel. They're so fun and cute to color in. Another really great way to use these is to heat emboss them. So you could heat emboss them in white, silver, gold, rose gold, and they look absolutely gorgeous. Now, as we said earlier, these sentiments are a perfect match for the Magic Iris. That means that you can use it with the Magic Iris coordinating die, or you can use it with the Magic Iris add-ons. So in this release, we have a Floral Wreath add-on. We also have a ton of other add-ons, a tropical leaf one, fall leaves, so many beautiful things. So it's going to fit in those add-ons or the Magic Iris, which means you can use them with those things as an interactive card or not. We also size a lot of our other products, dies and stamps, to work perfectly with these messages, and the sunburst backdrop is a perfect example of that, and Shari is going to make an adorable Father's Day card using that. She's also going to create a card with the new Floral Wreath Magic Iris add-on without the Magic Iris, and then if you want to check out our Intro to Magic Iris Floral Wreath video, we'll be using these same messages, but we're going to be using them inside of the actual Magic Iris, the working interactive die. Another cool way to use these is on the front of a platform pop-up. They look so cool on that too. We did that in the Intro to Springtime Bunny video, and it looked absolutely adorable. Now here you can see I'm adding some more beautiful pastel rainbow here to our Happy Easter, which looks just gorgeous. And there in the Happy Graduation, you'll see that I did blue and yellow. I think it'd be really fun to use the colors of whatever school someone's graduating from and add it to this awesome Happy Graduation. And that way you could really customize that stamp to be perfect for the recipient that you're sending it to. Now for the Happy Father's Day, I'm going to use that same light blue and yellow. I just thought that was a really pretty color combination. And then for the Happy Mother's Day, we're just going to color in all of these adorable little hearts and flowers. I'm using pinks and purples and then these really pretty greens. And I just love the combination of these colors. I think it's just beautiful. For the letters, I'm doing a little bit of kind of an ombre effect with darker at the bottom and lighter towards the top. And I think that looks just gorgeous. To make sure this all coordinates, I'm going to be using the same markers as I used in the images above to color in the flowers and the Easter eggs. That way I can easily mix and match them. And I love that purple combination. It's so pretty. Then we're going to bring in that yellow that we did on the Happy Graduation and add that into the Easter eggs. And these Easter eggs are so cute. I love using them for these Magic Spring Messages, but also just using them on cute little Easter cards too. It's always nice to have these fun little tiny images to spread about a scene. Last but not least, we'll add some color to the last flower and then of course fill in those little leaves with that beautiful green color combo. And then we're going to take our coordinating dies, and you can bend those apart at the tabs or use your wire snips to separate them. And we're going to line these up with our stamped images. Now that circle is a perfect match for these sentiments, and it's also a perfect match for the inside of the Magic Iris or any of the Magic Iris add-ons. So it's an interchangeable circle where you could just cut the sentiment and put it on a normal card, or it's going to cut the perfect size for any of the Magic Iris products. And here you can see how cute that is, and I love that it adds the little stitching detail all of the way around. And then here is a look at all of the images in the set. I just love these sentiments so much. They're so pretty and cute, and I just love coloring them in. And then of course all of those little icons are so fun, and here are some cute ways to kind of layer them around your messages on a card front. They look absolutely adorable like this. Now here I wanted to show you really quick how these fit really perfectly with the Magic Iris. This is one of the Magic Iris add-ons which has that same standard circle that all of the Magic Iris products have. And you'll see here how this just pops in perfectly and it looks so nice, especially with that double stitching detail. And of course you can do that with any of these sentiments. So you can make any type of card, not only with Magic Spring Messages, but any of the other Magic Messages sets too. One of the ways that I love to use these messages is in simple card sets, and we're going to do that here. We're going to create a square that's 3 5/8 inches by 3 5/8 inches. And so this is a really cute little square mini card, and we're going to be die cutting this with a reverse scalloped square. So we're going to line that right up, right in the center of our cut piece, run it through the die cut machine, and we're going to do that 6 times because we're going to make a card with every one of those images that we just colored in. Now this is the Flower Market paper and there are a ton of beautiful papers in this collection. So we're going to be taking 6 of these papers and making this really pretty rainbow card set. The next thing we're going to do is take those really pretty papers and we're going to trim those down to that 3 5/8 inches again. So 3 5/8 by 3 5/8 so that it's a perfect fit to go behind our really cool reverse scalloped frame. Went ahead and cut the rest of the papers and now we have 6 beautiful floral papers all in that perfect tiny square size. And then we're going to take out the Magic Spring Messages set and we're going to take all of those ones that we colored and die cut at the beginning. We're going to use all of those now. Also went ahead and cut down some card bases that are that 3 5/8 inch square size. And so we've got all of those ready to go and we can start to layer all of our pieces to create our card set here. So we're going to take a pattern paper, add some tape runner to the back, and then we'll layer that onto the card base. And then for that reverse scalloped frame, we're going to add some foam tape to the back. And there's these awesome foam strips. So these make it really quick and easy. We're just going to layer those foam strips onto the back and cut off any of the extra. Once we have foam strips on all 4 sides, we can then layer that on top of that pretty pattern paper, and I love the depth that it gives by adding the foam strips on the back. And then we can take one of our sentiments, in this case we're going to do the Happy Graduation, we're going to add some tape runner to the back and layer that right in the center. And then this cute, simple little card is all done. Now we're going to repeat the same exact idea with the other colors of paper and the other Magic Messages. So we'll take that really pretty pattern paper and put it onto our square card. We'll add some foam tape to the back of the square and then layer that onto that beautiful pattern paper to give us depth. And then we'll add a sentiment to the center. So now for this blue paper, we're going to add the Happy Father's Day in the center. And I think that just looks so cute. And then we're going to keep on with this whole pattern. And I love mass producing cards this way because once you have all of your supplies out, it's nice to just cut 6 of something, make 6 card bases, cut 6 pattern papers. You can move faster that way, and by doing this you either have a set of cards ready to go for all sorts of spring occasions, or you could give it as a gift as well. And I think this would be such a sweet gift to give to someone because they would have a bunch of cards ready to go that were beautiful and handmade. So now we're working with our gray paper and we're going to add the best wishes to that. And I really love the rainbow best wishes on that gray floral paper. And then last but not least, we'll do the green paper and we're going to add our Happy Easter onto this one. And these little cards are just so cute and so sweet and so quick and easy to create. And here you can see all the cards that we made. Oh, just adorable. I'm so glad to have this little card set ready to go for any occasion I may need them. Next up, Shari is going to make a super cute Father's Day card and show how these messages are a perfect fit for the sunburst backdrop. So take it away, Shari.
I'm making a Father's Day card today using the sentiment from Magic Spring Messages, along with the 2 little bears from Dad and Me. I'm using the sunburst backdrop die to create the background for my little scene, and I'll be using the yellow spiffy speckles paper. So I've cut that out. This is going to be basically the sky for my little scene, and the sentiment will go in that circle like the sun. I'm using some Watercolor Wishes paper for my mountains, and I'm using the green with the little tiny flowers for the grass. So I cut both of those with a stitch rectangle. So I have that nice stitching detail along the bottom and the 2 sides. For the grass, I'm just using one of the simple stitch hillsides to cut a little arc in the top for my bears to stand on. I really liked this green paper with those tiny flowers. It almost looks like a meadow full of flowers. And then I'm going to cut the mountain border from this teal Watercolor Wishes paper. So I'm using the smaller of the two mountain border dies. There is one with larger mountains, but I wanted to get as many mountains across this as I could, and I also did not want it to be too tall so that I had room for my sun in the sky. So I'm just checking to make sure I don't have them too low. I don't want my bears to cover up the top of the mountains. And then now that I have that cut, I've cut the little snowy hilltops from some pixie dust sparkle cardstock. So I'll just add those to the tops of the mountains just with a little dot of glue. Now I'm adding my green flower meadow that I die cut to the bottom of the mountains using some liquid glue. And then I'm trying to figure out how high I need that circle where the sun is so that it is not hidden behind the mountains. I need that full circle so that I can get the sentiment in there. So I've just pushed it up to the height I need, and I'm holding it in place with a piece of washi tape, and then I can take it to my trimmer and trim it down to be 5.5. So you can see I'm lining up the bottom at 5.5, and I'll just trim off the extra on the top. So now I know exactly how tall this piece needs to be. I'm going to do a little bit of inking to give it some more color. I'm using the Saltwater Taffy Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just pulling that peachy pink color in from the outside towards that yellow center. I think this has a really fun, soft sunset sort of look to have this peach color with that yellow. I'm not concerned about the bottom. That's going to get covered up by the mountains, but I do want to make sure that I have the sides and the top nicely inked. So I'm just checking to make sure I don't have any kind of showing. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more so it hides behind those mountains. Now I did want to add some shine to this kind of sunset sky that I created. So I'm adding some gold metallic watercolor splatters. And I picked a gold that was a little more subtle so you really just see it when the light hits it. And then I always like to mix two colors. I think it creates even more interest. So I'm also adding some white metallic watercolor splatters. And for these, I'm flicking them off the side of a block so I get smaller droplets on my background. Once that's dry, I'm just going to add it to my card base. You can see I drew a little arrow at the top so that I didn't forget which way was up. And then I'm adding some foam adhesive to the back of the mountain piece that I glued together earlier. So this is popped up from that sunshine background a little bit. And then I'm going to put my two little bears on here using some thin foam squares as well, so they're popped up too. Now I decided it looked a little barren. These bears needed some trees, so I'm using the trees from Happy Trails. This is one of my favorite sets. It's a bit older, but I just really like these little pine trees. There are two sizes, so I just stamped out two of each size, colored them, and then I really think this helps fill in a little bit around the bears. They just looked a little bit lonely down there at the bottom. And I'm just gluing those down directly to the mountains and the grass with some liquid glue. So they are tucking behind my little bears. And then of course I have a little die cut heart from guava cardstock to add between the two bears, which I think fills in that space very nicely. Now I can do the sentiment that is Happy Father's Day from the Magic Spring Messages. And I'll just be stamping that in black ink right in the middle of this circle. I'm going to pop that up on some foam squares so it matches my mountains. And I'm just lining that up with the circle in the die cut background. And then now I'm going in with my gold paints and I'm just tracing and coloring in those open spaces in the sentiment. So the word fathers, I also added some gold to those little dots and the little stars around it and some of those lines. So I just kind of traced everything with the gold. And here's that finished card. I just love those soft colors in the backgrounds and the elements, and I think this is a fun way to use the Magic Spring Messages sentiments. So for today's card, I'm using the new Magic Iris Floral Wreath, but without the Magic Iris. And I've cut all my little bits and pieces from this die set out of Watercolor Wishes paper. I'm cutting the main piece from the green, as you see there, and then of course all those other little pieces that we can layer on top are cut from some of the other colors in that same paper pack. Cutting them all from the same paper pad gives it all this nice soft watercolor look. So I'm starting out with my sort of what I like to call a daisy-shaped flower, the ones with the petals in the center. Those are all cut from the yellow color, and for all of these I'm using the darker shade in the paper pack. I did not use the lighter shades. The centers are cut from the pink, and there are 3 of those flowers. I like to keep the same shapes cut from the same colors. Because of the design of this, it evenly distributes the colors around the wreath. Now for those larger tulips, I cut those from the purple paper. And then there's also a smaller tulip in this set, and I cut those from the pink. Now there isn't a small tulip on this wreath, but there are those little ones that have little buds, which you can layer the tulips on, or you can layer those other little flowers that have the centers cut out, which I cut some of those, but I decided not to use them in the end. I decided to go with all tulips, and I'm going to put these smaller tulips on those little bud pieces. So there are 6 of these, 3 on this one, and then you can see on the opposite side of the wreath I have 3 more. And I'm just using this piece of just scrap paper underneath it so I keep my work surface nice and clean from the liquid glue, and so you could see things just a bit better. Now I do have those little leaf pieces. They're cut from that sort of teal color in the paper pack. They don't layer over anything, but I found that they were really nice to kind of tuck behind and fill it in a little bit more and almost give 2 shades of greenery behind some of these flowers. So I've put 2 here. I decided I wanted a little bit more, so I cut a couple more and tucked those behind. And then you'll see when I do assemble this with the sentiment, I am going to add a couple more on the front. I just wasn't sure quite where I wanted them just yet at this point. So now my wreath is basically done, and I'm going to work on my card base. So I've cut the lattice backdrop from fog cardstock, and I've also cut just a solid piece to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 to layer behind it, so that I have a really subtle tone on tone, and you just get the texture of that lattice on the background. I didn't want anything to distract from the wreath and the flowers, so that's why I'm layering this over the same color cardstock behind it. And I just put some liquid glue around all 4 sides, and then I'm just adding some dots randomly within the lattice work just to hold it in place. So I'm layering that onto that solid piece of fog cardstock, and then I'll put this whole panel onto my card base. And you could have cut the card base from that same fog cardstock and skipped the step of layering it over the solid panel, but I just keep some card bases already cut, and they're all white cardstock. Now to work on the sentiment, I'm going to heat emboss this in black. So I'm using black VersaFine ink, which is a pigment oil-based ink, and it's perfect for black embossing, but you use clear embossing powder. It's much less messy than black embossing powder. So I'm just stamping the Hello Spring sentiment from the Magic Spring Messages stamp set, stamped it in that black Versamark, and I'm adding clear embossing powder to it. And then you'll see as I heat that up with my heat tool and that melts, you get that nice black sharp embossing. Now I'm going to use the matching die, the coordinating die that goes with the Magic Spring Messages to cut this out. So I'll get a nice circle with some stitching detail around it. And this is all just on white cardstock. And then I wanted to color in the little images in this sentiment, but I want it to be still nice and soft like the colors of my pattern paper. So I decided to go with colored pencils in this case. So I'm just doing some very simple coloring. I matched the colors as best I could to the colors I used in my paper. You can see it up there in the corner of the screen. So I have a green for the leaves. I pulled out a pink that matched pretty well with my pink paper for the hello. And then I'm going to pull in some yellows and a little bit of orange just for some contrast on that big flower at the bottom because it has those petals behind it. A little pink on that flower that's sort of shaped like the tulips. And then I'll just take all those same colors and color in the little dots. I ended up coloring all the dots pink and also that tiny little flower. And now I can put this onto my card base. So I'm just adding little dots of glue all around my wreath, making sure I get all those little pieces so that they all stick down really well on this textured background that I've created with the lattice, and nothing sticks up to where it might get caught and tear. And then for the sentiment, I've put some foam squares on the back, some foam strips, so it pops up a little bit out of the middle of the wreath. And then here are those two teal colored leaves that I cut that I said I'm going to layer on afterwards. I just felt like that color needed to be pulled in a little bit more where we had a lot of green. And until I had this on there, I wasn't quite sure where I wanted them, but this allows me to tuck them behind that circle sentiment and kind of get them out of the way so they don't cover up the green too much. And then finally, I have some clear sequins that I've just sort of scattered around. When I do sequins, I like to do odd numbers of sequins, and in this case, kind of go on a diagonal across my card. So I have 3 in the top right and then 5 in the bottom left. And I like these big ones tucked underneath the sentiment. Just kind of makes it look like it's a continuous line of sparkle just kind of scattered across the card. And then here's my finished card using the Magic Iris Floral Wreath along with the Magic Spring Messages. All those pieces are die cut from Watercolor Wishes paper, and they look really great on that subtle lattice backdrop background.
This card is so pretty, Shari. I just love those colors and the Hello Spring sentiment, and the white on white detail in the background is just gorgeous. And then your Father's Day card is so cute and sweet. I just love that inking that you did in the background. Next up, we have some gorgeous cards by the design team. And this card here by Megan is just stunning. And I love how she heat embossed the Magic Spring Messages stamp set. Tammy used the Magic Spring Messages on the front of her platform pop-up. And I love how cute this looks. This platform pop-up is just so sweet. This card by Audrey is absolutely adorable. I love that polka dot backdrop with her beautiful coloring on her flowers. It's just stunning. And then here Callie used such a gorgeous color combo. I just love how she colored the flowers in the Hello Spring to match the flowers on the outside of her frame. This card by Letitia is so pretty, and she used our Spring Blossoms backdrop, which is a perfect match for these Magic Spring Messages. This Easter card by Elena is just so pretty. I love how she layered the flowers all of the way around, and she just used the Happy Easter part of the sentiment in there. And then Kara made this super cute Magic Iris, and as you pull the tab, she has her sentiment on the inside, and I think it looks absolutely gorgeous heat embossed. Lynette's card is so sweet. I love the flower market paper in the background, and that I love you die cut border is so adorable. So we cannot wait to see what you guys create with Magic Spring Messages, so make sure to share it with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!